how does it all work? Hong Kong immigration is driven by the provisions of the Immigration Ordinance, where the government has effectively delegated the responsibility for the development, the administration and the management of immigration policy. What that means ultimately is that the final arbiter for a decision on an immigration application is the Immigration Department themselves. There are opportunities to take your disgruntledness out of the hands of the Immigration Department if you wish, but in very practical terms, for the vast majority of applicants, the fact that there is a so-called appeal mechanism outside of the Immigration Department really isn't very practical or useful to anybody at all. So in a sense then, that's one of the downfalls of the way that our immigration policy is constructed, but I believe it's actually constructed in a very pragmatic and sensible fashion, because when you look at the number of cases that the Immigration Department are asked to rule on, and then you see the number of refusals and the reasons for the refusals, you realise the Immigration Department in the main get it right. So it is a policy that, as I say, sits in the hands of ultimately the Immigration Department themselves, but for the vast majority of people they get the right result, and therefore I think the service is pretty well managed. Because it's effectively sitting within the Immigration Department itself, it's not overly legalistic or unnecessarily bureaucratic, unlike some of the jurisdictions, the US being one where it's almost nightmare to deal with the process, and in some of the jurisdictions the cost of actually getting the immigration outcome that you are looking for is prohibitive if it gets into complicated areas. In Hong Kong, fortunately, we don't have any of that unnecessary palaver, and therefore it makes it a very easy system to work with. The essential dynamic of the underlying rationale, if you will, is to essentially facilitate bona fide commercial and socially advantageous activity to Hong Kong. It's also the promotion of welcome investment. The Immigration Department, in my experience, are always looking to say yes, if at all possible for them to do so, because they recognise through our history that foreign nationals coming to Hong Kong and making the contribution over the generations is representative of or reflective of the success that we've achieved to date. So it is a bit frustrating when you hear people say, well, no, the Immigration Department are out to deny you, not approve you, right? And that's, in my experience, not the case at all. And when they're administering this policy, essentially they're looking to protect and create opportunities for local jobs. They're looking for so-called welcome investment, and these really sort of change with the times depending on what the chief executive of the day constructs or construes as being welcome investment. Right now, policy since January 15 this year has been to attract and retain foreign national talent, professionals and quality migrants, and entrepreneurs. That wasn't the case until January this year, because for the 10 years prior to that, immigration policy as such, if it had any kind of steering guide, was designed to allow rich mainlanders to lend Hong Kong $10 million for 7 years in exchange for a residency here. That was introduced in the wake of SARS, when we needed essentially, supposedly, to attract capital to Hong Kong. Instead, what we ended up with, in my view, was a debacle where you have essentially 24,000 rich mainland Chinese people who are granted immigration status, but are not actually here and not delivering anything of value to our society in the way that you'd imagine a policy like that was supposed to. But anyway, finally, in terms of the policy diktat, given also that the Immigration Department is part of the Security Bureau, clearly there's an important security dimension to how they construct policy and they do the work that they do. So that's how the 4 visa types sort of sit, if you will.